2.5 years ago, I bought a manga tablet to follow my dreams and make a manga. It sucked. So I practiced, unfinished, and one-shot manga later, I finally started making the manga of my dreams. Since then, I've made 5 chapters, 165 pages, and 1 panel of an old woman smoking a bong in the bathroom. Which means, it's time for chapter 6, and how I almost ruined my manga. But I look so little. I was 18! But to explain how I almost ruined my manga, I have to analyze my characters. I've never wanted to analyze my characters and explicitly say what my intentions are with them, because I feel as though it takes away from someone's ability to find their own meanings in them. But it's really hard to make videos without doing that, so I have no other choice. But to analyze my characters, I first need to explain what Digman is about. No, I did not copy this. Digman follows an 18-year-old dude named Gray, who lives in an underground kingdom. For over 1,000 years, no one has seen the surface, and there's only one man who has seen it. The Four Stone. Basically the king. The kingdom has been trying to find the surface for a very long time, and Gray believes he will be the one to find it. Alright, now that's done. The question is, why does Gray want to find the surface? Gray, ever since he was a child, was told that finding the surface is the only way he can fill that void inside him. Alongside smashing that like button. The only way that he can defeat his mortality. The only way that he can become a god. And that he is the one chosen to find it. Essentially, Gray isn't trying to find the surface for virtuous reasons, but for himself and to not let his father down. Because of his belief that he's the chosen one, he's a cocky brat. In addition to the fact that he's the strongest student to ever attend the Digman Academy of Cornerstone. Digman are the people that look for the surface, by the way. But when he was one of only 2 students to survive the bombing of the graduation, spoiler alert, oop, the belief he was the chosen one became even more enforced. Now, I need to bring up Chris. This is the other survivor and who Gray would often bully. They are very different people. And after the bombing, they are forced to spend almost every second together, as these 2 future Digmen are being marketed the crap out of and attending interviews and conferences all across the kingdom of Sedispir. Back to Gray. Gray believes he has something he needs to do, find the surface. And Gray has things he wants to do. For example, be friends with Chris.
This one's kind of misleading. Gray doesn't consciously know he wants to be friends with Chris, he just knows he low-key likes hanging out with him.
But because he believes the only thing that matters is finding the surface, that he is above humanity, when he gives into his wants, he feels guilty because he should be spending his time correctly. And when he does spend his time correctly, he isn't happy. This partially results in one of the main themes Gray represents: hypocrisy. Gray talks a lot about how the only thing he really cares about is the surface, but that's clearly not true. Even Chris knows it. In chapter 6, I was really going to strengthen this theme, and how these 2 aspects of him pull him into 2 different directions. Okay, now I need to dump even more knowledge on you.
Shut up, don't complain.
A 1.5 years ago, I started writing the script for the first 2 sagas of Digman, and I ended up writing 49 chapters. So now, when I was ready to make chapter 6, I read what I had, and I'm exaggerating, but what makes this chapter so cool is seeing Gray's internal conflict. When writing a letter to his mom, Gray realizes that once he starts his Digman training, he won't really be able to go back to the city. So despite being a waste of time, he goes to the city once more. He comes back, has a dream where he's told he's not working hard enough, and starts mining. Good, right? Now I actually think it does a pretty good job at representing that internal conflict. However, up until now, I've only vaguely shown that Gray likes Chris.
Again, this is kind of misleading. In Gray's head, he fucking hates Chris, but you know.
But if you aren't thinking about things that deeply, you'd rightfully assume that he hates him. So I decided I should portray an act of hypocrisy in which Gray decides to spend more time with Chris. And no, I don't replace him going to the city with that, but I replace the part of him mining. Arguably, this chapter then no longer portrays him being constantly pulled in 2 different directions, but instead represents how much he is hurt by his human desires, which I think is a better development for his character, especially considering what happens to his character in future arcs, like the next, the next arc. So Gray, for the last 2 months, already 4 days. Okay, let me explain this really quickly. Okay, in this world, there are... Alright, I wrote this wrong. Months. There are 10 months in a year. My brother did that, ignore that. And there are... 7 weeks per month. And how many days in a week are there? There are 6 days. And now the final question, which you could figure out if you were doing math. How many days are there per month? 42. Which means under this model, since there are 42 days in a month and 10 months, that would mean there are 420 days in a year. But there's only 365. And that's because we can because in 2 of the months there are only 12 days because some weird shit happens. No, I will not explain. So for the last 2 months, Gray hasn't been able to do what he needs to do, but what he wants to do. Kinda. Hang out with Chris, get attention, explore places. So it's natural that he would feed into those behaviors, because those behaviors are his new normal. Also, this will allow me to parallel the scene where he chooses to play games with Chris, because in the future, spoiler, he will not choose to play games with Chris and go mining. W character development. So after rewriting the script, I saved my manga. Okay, I'm exaggerating. But this chapter beyond that rewrite, I made plenty of other great changes to the original script and the presentation. In the original script, the beginning of this chapter takes place the same night they got into that shitty house, and I instead changed it so that a week had passed. I thought it'd be cooler, and it also allowed me to include much better imagery while Gray is writing his letter to his mom. Speaking of writing his letter to his mom, these are pages in chapter 1 in which Gray wrote a letter to his mom, and after I made these pages, I read an indie manga and Manga Plus creators with a similar storytelling gimmick, but they moved the squares here outside the panels. I thought it looked way better, so I copied it. I wish I remembered what the manga was, but I don't. But oh boy, even without the drawing, I just really like the way this page is paneled, and the next page, and the next page, and the next page. Basically, I really stepped up my paneling game. I feel like I really strengthened my identity in my paneling. To summarize that identity, basically like having things break out of the panels a lot and have things overlap. This is an example page with good overlap, and this is my favorite page I paneled. Artistically, I feel like I really stepped up my character drawings in terms of making them look consistent and just better, as well as their facial expressions. That part is because I read the Greatest Estate Developer though. In this chapter, there are 2 main panels that really highlight Gray's struggles. One is this page, where he gets back from the city, looks at himself in the reflection of the window, and thinks, what am I doing? He doesn't sound like that. And the following page, which I really want to nail because I thought of it a long time ago and I thought it was a cool page, in which after having a dream where as a child he's getting lectured by his father, he abruptly wakes up, unable to get any sleep, hearing the words from his father, you are not working hard enough. Fun fact, I drew Gray's head, then I did it again, then I did it again, then I did it again. What was I cooking? Anyway, following his awakening, he peeks over at his pickaxe, suggesting he's gonna mine. Well, then it's peak! Because you think Gray's gonna be mining, but he's actually playing a card game with Chris, which is a good subversion of expectations. Destroy that subscribe button! This reminds me of another issue I had with my old script. Many times there'd be a plan or an implied progression of the story, then it just happened. An example of this is what chapter 4 was supposed to be originally. Initially, Gray and Chris were told a man would meet them somewhere, then take them to Hillseas. In chapter 4, they were told Hilsey would meet them somewhere, and the man just randomly showed up, and he was a freaking weirdo. This was to subvert expectations and make things more interesting. Additionally, I moved the reveal that Hilsey's actually kind of a bum to now. Also artistically, I feel as though Munchie looks a lot better now than he did in previous chapters. Okay, so what's this card game thing we saw earlier? I think I showed it earlier. If not, I'm talking about it now. My friend Connor and I, yes, it's a different person, we're kids. We made a card game called Skymon, featuring mons like Stupid Peasant, and I decided to include it in Digman. Not Stupid Peasant, just Skymon. The other day we hung out and came up for all the rules of the new Skymon, and it's gas. If such when we finish it, I'll probably make an entire video for it called I just made a TCG for my manga, which was what this video was supposed to originally be called, but having never played the game and only making 2 cards, I felt as though it wasn't the right time. Speaking of making the cards, I quickly found out I am not good at designing Pokemon type creatures. Yeah. Shanky's just a Mankey clone, but that's intentional and a story for a future video. But when designing this other Skymon, Chris's favorite, I really struggled making a worm Pokemon. When I looked up fan worm Pokemon, I was put to shame seeing how many people are actually able to come up with good ideas. Anyway, we ended up with this. I don't want to talk about it. The nice thing about being a small creator without that many views of his comic is that I can just go back and change things without anyone knowing. For example, I have called one of the main weapons in the power system crystallized pickaxes, and now I think that's horrible. So I posted a TikTok and YouTube short asking for name suggestions and got some bangers. I went with this one. I also thought I'd mention how I was a copy and paste fiend on this page, but I was just ready to be done. It was the last page. And that means that's the chapter. I normally include a chapter recap where my friends voice act the characters, but that takes way too long to make. So instead, please go read the chapter. The link's in the description. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. So we're excited to make the next chapter because I think it makes Gray an even better character. It highlights another one of his themes, which involves his pickaxe, since he's being forced to get a new one. So I guess that's stay tuned. Okay, bye. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I just want to yap for a second. First, I'd like to shout out this YouTube person named Quills because I kind of just copied part of her video. When she's doing a drawing time lapse, she has a textured background, which I copied during like my Skymon drawing thing. So I figured I would just own up to that now. While making Digman, I cycle between a few things. Those being listen to music, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, and watch anime. And when watching anime, you have limited options because you don't want to watch something you actually need to pay attention to. So I typically choose horrible shows. So I watched SAO kind of for the first time. When I was younger, I would just shit on it because that's what everyone did, but I was like, you know what? I'm finally gonna watch it. I actually liked it. It's not good, mostly. See, the first half of season 1, I think, is like genuinely entertaining. It's not like peak or anything, but it's entertaining. And then, you know, there's his little sister shows up. That's questionable, but you know, no one, it didn't hurt anyone. Yeah, okay, no, that was bad. I liked the Gun Gale game, and now I'm watching Alicization right now, and that shit, you know, it's actually pretty good. Anyway, if you were Digman, you're actually goated, and that's about it. See ya.